We have the bounty hunter reworks. Okay, so we have the reworks of the bounty hunters, and they have this whole new like contract system that's really cool. And then we also have Bossk. Finally, he's like one of the highest requested characters. So, for those of you who are impatient, I'm gonna try and squeeze all of this info into one video. I'm not crazy. So let's get right to it. All right, starting, I'm gonna do the. Well, actually, let's first talk about the contracts. So there's this new, really cool system. So it shows in kind of like by the unique icon, and you kind of pump it up, and it's this ability. And depending on who the leader is, you have certain conditions. So as I'm going through these kits, I'll talk about what the conditions are for each contract based on who the leader is. So if Boba's your leader, then he has a certain contract, and that is the contract that you have to fulfill. And the like tune or whatever that you need to attack to fulfill the contract will have a little blue icon over it. So for Boba, I think it's that you have to attack, you have to damage the weakest tune like 10 times. And so as you do that, it'll have a little blue icon over whoever's the weakest. And as you do that, it'll charge up the contract. Once the contract is charged and fulfilled, you get the bounty, and like only bounty hunters can charge it up, and only bounty hunters can reap the benefits. But the leader will give a benefit for that contract being fulfilled, and then every single bounty hunter also has their individual like payout when a contract is fulfilled. Okay, so it's a great idea. I mean, I don't know how this is gonna work yet, but it sounds super fun. All right, IG88, his first special, or his only special when he does that AoE. Now it will inflict target lock for anyone who's critically hit, and it's a 3-turn target lock, which is pretty long. It doesn't have the description of target lock written, but I'm pretty sure it's that you have lower evasion and then you can't gain buffs, I believe. And then his leader, and these are only for, the contracts are only active, it's only one. So if you're doing one of the normal nodes or something where you have an ally, it's only the main leader, not the ally leader too. You know how usually when you have an ally leader, you share both the leader abilities? The contract doesn't get shared. So IG88, he has the same leader, but the contract is you need to score critical hits against a debuff enemy 10 times. That's your contract. So if he's a leader, that's what you need to fulfill. Once that gets fulfilled, all bounty hunter allies, and again, only bounty hunters can fulfill it, and once it's fulfilled, all bounty hunter allies will gain 25% offense and potency for the rest of the battle. Okay. His unique also has a Zeta in it. It used to be that he just had 45% critical damage, I guess, and now he will recover half of his health when he damages a target locked enemy. That's awesome because he's so squishy. He will also have 20% offense for each debuffed enemy. So these teams, as we've all been noticing, run heavily on debuffs. So this is likely going to be 100%. So an extra 100% offense. That's what makes him hit so hard. And he has 50% evasion against target locked enemies. So if his AoE is landing all of those target locks, then no one's going to be able to hit him. There's also a piece of it. I think this last piece is the Zeta. While IG88 is active, target locked enemies can't recover health or protection. So it's essentially like shock. And then his payout, so his leadership payout, if he's in the leadership, then all the bounty hunter allies get that additional offensive potency. But then whenever any contract is fulfilled, not only do they share that leader payout, they also have their own individual payouts. His payout, if any contract has been fulfilled, whether he was the leader or not, for the rest of the battle, anytime he crits on someone, he reduces their tenacity by 10%, and that stacks. His attacks will ignore 50% defense of target locked enemies, and he has 25% offense if there is any enemy with a target lock. So basically what's happening with these contracts is once they kick in, they're like, crazy OP. So I think this is going to be really fun for things like territory wars, territory battles. And I'm really interested on how these are going to do in the raids. You're just like trying to pump them up, and then once they fire off, you just like do a ton of damage. All right, so Boba Fett, his kit didn't really change much, but his execute special, if it didn't defeat a target, so it has all these like special conditions if it did defeat a target. If it didn't, then he will inflict healing immunity for 2 turns. Okie dokie. The contract for him being in the leader, like I said, you have to defeat. Oh, so for Boba Fett, you have to defeat the first enemy that takes a turn. And then the reward is that all bounty hunter allies have tenacity for the rest of the battle. Okie, so you just have to kill the fastest tune, the one that takes a turn, and then you get a bunch of tenacity. The payout for that's kind of, I mean, it could be good because bounty hunters don't really have a cleanse. Okay, and then his individual payout is that he will gain 100% turn meter, and for the rest of the battle he has 50% speed and additional 200% defense penetration. So ton. Alright, onto Greedo. On his basic, he now has a 70% chance to gain potency up, and when he's attacking an enemy with a thermal detonator, he has an extra 25% crit damage. His explosive sabotage special that places thermal detonators everywhere, when they explode, he will now gain a 25% turn meter. And it says when these thermal detonators explode, it sounds like it's not any thermal detonator, it's just these ones. And he now has a second special. I don't know Greedo's kit that well because he's the one bounty hunter I never used, but I think this is a new special, and it has a Zeta. All allies gain crit chance up for 2 turns, reduce the target's enemy turn meter, can't be resisted unless they're a raid boss, by the amount equal to Greedo's crit chance. So this is kind of like the opposite of Han's ability, which is just awesome. And whatever turn meter he reduces, he gains. So he's reducing their turn meter based on his crit chance, and then he's gaining it. It's just like the similarities between Han's kit are just juicy. If the target is reduced less than 25 or 20% turn meter, stun them, which can't be resisted. And then dispel all buffs on the target enemy, and this attack can't be evaded. Good lord. I mean, this has a lot of similarities with OG Han's kit, just saying. He has the leadership, gives 50% critical damage, but then the contract that you get from a Greedo lead, you have to damage an enemy that has less than 50% turn meter 10 times with a basic ability. So it'll have a little icon, I guess, on who you have to attack. And then if you do this, the payout, the leadership payout, is that all bounty hunter allies have 50% critical damage for the rest of the battle. And then his unique payout, he has 50% health steal, 25% critical damage, 75% critical chance until the end, or 75% counter chance until the end of the battle. Now, that's a ton of counter, so looking back at his basic, it's giving him potency up with the chance, and then it hits really hard if they have a thermal detonator on them. That's what his basic's doing. Dengar. His first special, the like stun one, it just has I think a higher chance to inflict speed down, but the second one got a little more interesting. It does a damage to everyone, but also will randomly damage 2 targets a second time, dealing less damage. The one crit condition is still the same. The second one, he has a chance to also gain stealth. No, the third one's the same. You need to get those 3 crits to reduce all the turn meter. And then he will apply a thermal detonator to a random enemy for each bounty hunter ally. It's a lot. And this attack can't be countered. So many little patterns. Can't be resisted. Can't be countered. Okay, and then he also gets a leadership. Bounty hunter allies have 50% health steal. Which is nice because mine are so squishy. In addition, all enemies have negative 50% crit damage. And he gets the following leadership contract. Damage the healthiest ally 10 times. It's the opposite of the one where you have to damage the weakest. I think the damage the weakest one is Bossk, who we will see at the end. And the leader payout is that all enemies have negative 20% offense for the rest of the battle. So his lead is a little bit more of a defensive lead. All right, then his unique, he did gain a little piece that when he's stealthed, enemies can't gain stealth. Oh, this has TP written all over it with those stupid stealthing rebels. Whenever that triggers, he will recover health and protection. And it does have a Zeta, and I think the health, from what we've seen from Zeta's health and protection recovery is just like, that's pretty much the Zeta. And then his individual contract payout is that he will get 25% offense, 25% speed, and while he is stealthed, he will have a 60% chance to assist when a bounty hunter ally uses a special ability. Whoa! Okay, let's get into Bossk. So his basic, prey on the weak, deal physical damage to the target enemy. It's guaranteed to be a crit and deal double damage if the target is the weakest enemy, which, I mean, you're kind of always attacking the weakest enemy unless there's like a taunt going on. His first special hunting party, he will deal physical damage to the target enemy, stun them for 1 turn, call all bounty hunter allies to assist, dealing 60% less damage. If the target is the weakest enemy, reduce all assisting bounty hunters' allies' cooldowns by 1. So he's really preying on the weak here. So he's not going to be good against like alternating taunts. He's going to be really good when you're like focusing on a character to take them down. Reducing everyone's cooldowns is pretty great. His second special, he will dispel all debuffs on himself. Bounty hunters don't have a cleanse, but at least he can cleanse himself. He'll recover 50% health. He will gain frenzy, and which, another tune has frenzy finally. And he will taunt for 3 turns. That's a long taunt. But that's nice. Just another way to keep my squishy little bounty hunters alive. Then all bounty hunter allies gain offense up for 2 turns. I like that. He's holding strong, and everyone else is going to fire hard. His leadership is on the hunt, and it has a Zeta. Bounty hunters will gain 50% max protection, 50% tenacity. Bounty hunter allies gain 100% defense while at full health. So it's basically they're going to be really hard to get down at first. Going to make it really hard to get them down hitting their health. When an enemy suffers a debuff or resists, so either way, bounty hunter allies will recover 5% health and protection. I think that's the part that's the Zeta. Surprise. And then he gets the following contract. The requirement is dealing damage to the weakest enemy 10 times, and the reward is that bounty hunter allies gain 50 speed for the rest of the battle. 50! That's almost 2 speed arrows. What? Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, so he's really like preying on the weak. All right. His unique is he has 50% defense and 50% max health while he's taunting. He has 50% offense and 50% health steal while attacking buffed enemies. So it's like preying on the strong too. When he loses taunt, I think this is the Zeta part, he gains taunt for 1 turn if the weakest enemy has protection. That's a really interesting piece. So if you're doing a really bad job of killing the weakest person, he keeps taunting. He's like, do a better job. I don't know. That's an interesting piece to it. And then his individual contract payout, he recovers 5% health and 5% protection at the start of this turn, and half that much whenever another bounty hunter starts their turn. So his leadership is, or like the contract from his leadership is giving them a ton of speed. And then he's regenerating health and protection as they're taking turns, which is going to happen a lot if you're using him in the leadership spot for his contract. This could be really interesting. I really like that they added a tank. It's cool he can cleanse himself. Just the fact that they recover health and protection whenever they apply or resist a detrimental effect. Healing immunity everywhere. They can't cleanse it. I know these look really fun. My first instinct on all of these is TB and maybe the raid, since they're gonna like ramp up. Definitely TB, which is great because until now we've all been just like worshipping Sir George's video of how to use bounty hunters in TB. I'm really hesitant for them to be good in arena. Maybe a few key pieces. I mean, Bobo was really good in arena for a little while. But they seem too easy to manage. If Bossk is the only one that can cleanse himself, it's a little easy to manage. Like the way I'm countering all the Sith teams right now is I just keep Thrawn managed, and then they don't have a cleanse. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, maybe those Sith teams are still really successful, but if you don't have a cleanse, arena's going to be hard. But I really like this contract structure. I think it's a really interesting addition to the game, and this kind of stuff that ramps up really builds the other parts of the game, not just arena. So I can't wait to get my hands on them, and let me know what you all think.